Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and brace yourself. This may be a long video. This may be a short video. I'm gonna guess around 30 minutes, give or take, so I'm giving you a heads up. It could run longer, but I'm gonna ballpark 30 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna be able to say everything I want to say in under 30 minutes because I got a lot to say. As the title implies, this is Let's Talk Comic Books. So there's a lot to talk about. We're not talking about comic book movies or video games or toys. We're just talking about books. Actual comic books here. Comic books come in a variety of forms. You have the comics, the funnies, that show up in your newspaper from time to time. These are comics. You have monthly magazines, sometimes referred to by fans as floppies. You have trade paperbacks, which come in two forms, graphic novels and collected editions. And then you have the omnibus. So your floppy is like your week-to-week episode of a TV show. It's like your individual storyline. Your trade paperback is like the DVD box set. It just collects all the stories from the previous year or run or whatever into one coherent book, so you can just sit and read them all at once. Your graphic novel is a one-off. It's a story written as a book. It's a comic book written as a novel. So it's one self-contained story. This story may be canon in the larger grand scheme of things, or it may be an alternate universe or a side story or just, a what if or whatever. And then you have the omnibus. The omnibus is not the same as a trade paperback, but it's kind of similar. An omnibus is a big fucking book, and what it does is it collects collections of books, like whole collections, like not just individual runs, but like multiple runs. So you might get, like with a trade paperback, you might get, I don't know, let's take Batman for example. For a trade paperback, you might get all of the individual comics that inspired the 1966 TV show. An omnibus is going to give you every issue printed in a whole decade. Like every issue that was printed of every book. Spin-offs, annuals, etc. For a whole decade. You're getting a lot of fucking books in an omnibus, and they come in volumes, big ass fucking volumes. I own somewhere around 175 ish to maybe 200 or so thereabouts floppies. Not a big, massive collection, mind you, but a respectable collection for, someone of my income. I own about 20 to 30, give or take, trade paperbacks. I own about 10 or so graphic novels. And I own exactly one omnibus. One omnibus. And I'm not going to say what it is. I'll do a video on it when I do it. I'm not going to dig it out. It's lost in my car somewhere. I'm not going to dig it out. There's a chance it may have been stolen. I don't know. I might not even have it. That's why I'm not going to say what it is, because I can't find it, so I might not even still have it. So a few years ago, starting in 2020, I got back into regular reading comics, collecting comics. So I signed up for the 3 digital services. I had DC Universe, I had Marvel Unlimited, and I had Comixology. DC Universe tried to expand into a digital streaming service, and then that disappeared when HBO Max came on the scene. So I'm up in the air. I don't know. I'm not up to speed on if DC Universe still exists as a comics reader platform. I don't know. But at the time, I was subscribed to it, and I was reading a lot of books. I bought a tablet specifically for that purpose. And I had Marvel Unlimited, and I was reading a lot of Marvel books. And again, I don't know if Marvel Unlimited is still available or not. I do know Comixology just folded. It got merged into Kindle, Amazon Kindle Unlimited. So now instead of having a Comixology account, you just have an Amazon Kindle Unlimited account. So there you go. That's where you get your comics now. During that same span of time, I picked 12 books and I subscribed to them. I bought 1 year subscriptions to 12 different comic books. Each month, I would buy a new subscription so that I would have a new book coming, starting every month. And then the plan was to renew them as they expired. And then just, I picked those as the 12 I wanted to follow. Well, I lost my job. Things got complicated. I lost interest, money, etc. Life got in the way. And so I just let my subscriptions eventually run out and didn't renew any of them. And then I started collecting trade paperbacks and graphic novels. And then buying floppies off of eBay. When I do buy the single issues, I'm not looking for keys, as fans call it. Keys are, special, like, historical moments, like first appearances, or the death of a character, or the wedding of a character, or, like, big major milestones. I'm not collecting those. I'm just buying random stories, for the most part. Now, I might buy a trade paperback that will tell the story that a key is a part of, and that's how I get that story, now. But for the most part, when I buy issues, I'm looking for mostly I don't just go to eBay and search Superman and then find a random Superman comic for $2 and then hit buy it now and then get it in the mail. That's not what I do. I have done that. And I'm just using Superman as an example. I have done that. Just picked a random character and then just browsed until I saw an issue where the cover looked cool and I bought it. Mostly what I do is I buy lots. Individual lots. So I'll see somebody that's got a lot of, say, 25 random superhero comics or 25 Batman comics or X-Men comics or whatever for X amount of dollars, and if it's a fair price, I'll hit buy it now. Get it in the mail. The other thing I do is I'll pick a character that I want, and I'll look for either a trade paperback, or I'll just browse that character, like I said, and then look for just an individual. I'll say, today I'm buying Flash comics. So I'll go through and I'll say I'm going to buy 6 Flash comics, and I'll just search eBay Flash comics, and then I'll just, that one looks cool, buy it now, that one looks cool, buy it now, etc. So I do that from time to time. I've been reading comic books since I was a kid. Too young to be able to pinpoint my first comic. I can't tell you what my first comic is because I've been reading them since I could read. And I was reading books, books, novels, by the time I was in kindergarten. I was reading at a 6th grade level by the time I was in kindergarten. So I didn't just read comic books. I was reading novels and everything I could get my hands on. Magazines, newspapers, everything. I was that kid, that weird kid that would read the fucking newspaper. Didn't know what the fuck it was saying. I just read it to read it. I just couldn't get it. I had to read. I'm a professional writer, and that comes from my love of reading. So I just love to read. It's just something I enjoy doing. So I started out long before trade paperbacks and graphic novels were the norm. Just buying random comics. Back in those days, this was a long time ago. This was back in the 80s and 90s. So back in those days, comic books, like magazines and books and newspapers, were everywhere. You could walk into your local gas station and they had a little display of comic books. Your Kmart, your grocery store had the little newsstand, and they had comic books at the end. Your bookstore had a section of comic books, you know. And you had comic book stores, dedicated comic book stores. But you also had, like, at any store that sold anything also sold comic books. Your dollar stores sold comic books. Walmart, Target, etc. They all sold comic books. That has changed. That is not the case anymore. So that has changed. A lot of comic book sales has moved online, either digitally or, you know, through, like, you know, comic book shops, online comic book shops. Yeah, your local dedicated comic book store still exists, but it's not a dedicated comic book store anymore. They sell comics, sure, but they also sell board games and D&D and Funko Pops and action figures and collectibles and model kits and everything else, because, you know, they want to stay in business. So like the dedicated comic book store that's wall-to-wall comics, nothing but comics, as far as I know, doesn't really exist anymore, outside of like a handful of places. And even then, I don't know if that really is the case or not. I haven't seen one in a long ass time. Honestly, I haven't seen a dedicated comic book store in 25 years. It's been that long. So, what do I like to read? I don't have a type. I mean, I mentioned this and that a lot, you know, Flash, X-Men, Batman, whatever. But honestly, I don't have really a type of comic I like. Yes, I do read a lot of superhero comics, but I also read a lot of real life story comics, you know, like romance comics. I read a lot of comedy books, you know, funny books. I read a lot of like Archie and Garfield, etc. That Peanuts, that kind of stuff, you know. But I also read, you know, Scooby-Doo. I read fairy tale books. I read D&D books and fantasy books, swords and sorcery books. I read horror books. I read anthology books, action adventure books. Fuck it, I'll read a Western. You know, if it's a good story, it's a good story. I'll read anything. I don't have a preference. Indie comics, mainstream comics, the big three, superhero books, whatever. Now, there are some that stand out that I are like my go-to, because I already have a familiarity with them, so I know in all likelihood I'll probably enjoy them because I've enjoyed them in the past. So, some of my standouts are Transformers. Transformers is one where I will buy anything, even if I don't like the cover, I'll still buy it anyways, because I love Transformers. My favorite Transformers is the IDW run, Transformers Generation 1, but I also like the Transformers Armada run. That was a good comic. Armada was a good comic. I never liked the cartoon, but I did like the comic. And I love, you know, it's classic, it's retro, it's, you know, nostalgic, etc. I like G1. I like the G1 comics that Marvel printed, and I like the G1 comics that IDW did. And I like, you know, alternate takes of Transformers, you know, things like that. So pretty much anything that has to do with Transformers, I'll read it. X-Men. X-Men is where I get complicated. I like the Jim Lee era 1990s animated series Blue Team, Gold Team X-Men. But I also like the original Team X-Men and the giant size era X-Men. So, you know, the lineup that was introduced in the giant size X-Men that relaunched the X-Men franchise. So, you know, Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, etc. So I like that lineup. But I will dabble in modern X-Men. I'll also dabble in spin-offs. When I say spin-offs, I'm talking stuff like House of X, or X-Men Classics, or X-Men 97 as an example, or I don't know, I can't no, Red and Slim is a spinoff, as an example. Stuff like that, like just like the weird quirky stuff. I'll check it out. I also like Children of the Atom was a good one. Oh my god, I loved Children of the Atom. Now that's one I don't have that I do want to get again because I was really into that when it launched. I also like some of the side X-Men, but like I said, mostly 80s and 90s, and dabble in the 70s, and a little trickle over beyond the 2000s, but not much. But I'm talking stuff like Wolverine early run stuff, Cable early run, New Mutants, little Generation X, X-Force, X-Factor, what else? Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, Astonishing X-Men. I lost interest by then, but, that's another story for another day. Spider-Man, I've already talked about other places, but long story short, and I'm saying, like, this is the abridged. I like everything up to the Clone Saga, and then I'm done. I don't read anything after the Clone Saga. I'm okay with some Spectacular Spider-Man. I'm okay with Web of Spider-Man. I like Amazing Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man, the primary book. I also like something like the Spider-Man Noir was good. I do not like Ultimate Spider-Man, but Spider-Man 2099, I'll check it out from time to time. It's fine. But once the Clone Saga hits, I'm done. Nothing after that. The Avengers is messy, but I'll try to weed through this without making this video 3 hours long. I will read and collect individual Avengers to an extent. Thor, I have a strong interest in, so I will be inclined to pick up a Thor story. I can get into Thor. I can read, not follow, but pick up an individual from time to time, just for the, for the thrill. An Incredible Hulk book or story. If it's an interesting saga, like, I don't know, Infinity Gauntlet or whatever, Infinity War, whatever, Secret War, something like that, yeah, I can read a mainline Avengers book with the whole team. Individually, I will not read anything featuring or starring Captain America or Iron Man or Black Widow or Hawkeye or Ant-Man or the Wasp or Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver. And anyone else who has been an Avenger or a side-off or whatever, I'm not fucking interested. I have a very low interest in Avengers as a whole. Movies are a whole another story. Like, we're talking comics here. Trying to think of what are the other Marvel characters I like, if there are any. Oh, Fantastic Four, yeah. Fantastic Four is one of those new, old, in between. I don't care. I'll fucking give it all a shot. Ultimate, whatever. I just like the Fantastic Four. It's Marvel's first family. Fuck it. They're good. Good books. As far as Marvel goes, that's pretty much it. I have no interest in Daredevil or Elektra or Black Panther or Captain Marvel or Ghost Rider. I have no interest in the Punisher. None of these interest me. None of them. They're just fuck off. DC, I've already done a video on, but I'll talk about it. So DC, I like the main ones, the Justice League, and I mean Justice League books, JLA books. I'll read anything JLA, new, old, Justice Society, whatever. It's all the same to me. And what I mean by that is it's all good quality. I'll read anything with those characters, anything. Individually, I'll read The Flash. I'll read Martian Manhunter. I'll read Batman. Any of the Batmans, Detective Comics, Batman, Adventures of Batman and Robin, etc., etc. Superman, same thing. Wonder Woman, same thing. I'm less interested in Cyborg. I'm not interested in Teen Titans. I'm less interested in Merman or whatever the fuck his name is. The fuck is Merman's name? The fish. Aquaman. Jesus Christ. Aquaman. I have no interest in Aquaman. I have no interest in Lobo. I have no interest in Lobo. But yeah, that's the majority of DC that I'm interested in. My favorite era of Batman is actually the 60s era. The books that inspired the TV show or are similar in tone to the TV show. I do like some of the stuff from the 80s. Don't get me wrong. The Dark Knight stuff is good. The 90s stuff is iffy. I did not like the animated series that much. I watched it, but I didn't enjoy it. I watched it to watch it because it was on, and I didn't have any friends, so I had nothing else to do. But I didn't enjoy it. It was like a lot of shows I watched. It was just turn the TV on, and it happened to be on at that moment in time, and maybe I would look at it, or maybe I was playing a toy or reading a comic or playing a video game, whatever. But the TV was on. Post 90s Batman, I lose interest. Now I do like Harley Quinn, and I have started to explore, out of curiosity, the Suicide Squad, and I have again curiosity for the Teen Titans, so I'm starting to look at them. I tried to read a Nightwing comic, and comic collectors are gonna scream at the monitor. When I finished reading that Nightwing comic, I ripped the cover off, and I ripped every page out of it, and I threw it in the trash. That is what I thought of fucking Nightwing. And if somebody ever gives me a Nightwing comic, or if I ever get one in a bin of comics, if I ever buy a bin of comics and it comes with a Nightwing, that's what I'm gonna do with it. Fuck Nightwing. I have no fucking interest in Nightwing. Stupidest fucking thing I've ever read. That is not a good fucking character. Yeah, so don't give me Nightwing comics. Non-Marvel DC stuff. Let's talk Image for a brief second. I hate to make blanket statements like this, but Image is the one publisher that I can definitively say, has never published a goddamn thing I'm interested in. Nothing. Not in the history of Image Comics, they have never put out a book I wanted to read. Ever. Not once. Dark Horse, I was into the Alien vs. Predator stuff. I was into the Star Wars stuff. Some of their other movie, horror movie properties and stuff. Yeah, it was interesting. Bongo Comics, sure. Futurama, Simpsons, Radioactive Man, etc. Yeah, oh god, I love Bongo Comics. Fuck yeah. I miss them. Alright. Oh, god, this is gonna piss people off. I know it is. I love Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have probably 60 or more Ninja Turtles action figures, and that's not an exaggeration. I have probably at least 60 or more Ninja Turtle action figures. I have a lot of Ninja Turtles video games. I have all the movies on DVD. I love Ninja Turtles. I fucking hate the comics. I cannot stand the comics. I have never read a Ninja Turtle comic I liked. I will not buy Ninja Turtle comics. I will not own Ninja Turtle comics. And again, like Nightwing, if they wind up in my possession, I'm just going to tear them up and throw them in the trash. Because I have no interest in Ninja Turtle comics. Fuck the comics. I was all about that cartoon and that live action movie. But mostly the video games and toys. That's what Ninja Turtles is for me. It's a toy line. Masters of the Universe, as far as I know, does not have an ongoing monthly comic book, as far as I know. All I've ever read of it are the mini comics that come with the action figures, and it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't interest me, so I don't I usually throw those away when I buy an action figure that comes with a mini comic. I usually like flip through it, and I don't even read it page by page. I just flip through it and throw it away. So I don't even save those. Dawn. I love Dawn. But Dawn is tricky. Dawn is an indie comic that started as an anthology called Cry for Dawn, which is a fucking expensive book because it's out of print and, you know, fucking sought after. And then there's Dawn Comics. I have the complete set of Dawn in trade paperback form. I have every trade paperback that has been published of Dawn, including the Dawn and Vampirella crossovers. I have those too. I don't care for Vampirella, but I love Dawn, so yeah, I read the Vampirella Dawn crossover. Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo comics. I love Sonic the Hedgehog comics. I like Archie comics. And not just mainline Archie, but like Betty and Veronica, Archie and Jughead. I like the weird shit that they do with Archie comics, like Archie Meets the Predator, or the Archie Zombie Apocalypse, or whatever it was. I like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Things like that. Yeah, I love Archie. And yes, also Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Yeah, I like it. I don't like Richie Rich or Casper at all. Yeah, I like Garfield. Oh, and I do like Peanuts. And if we're going to talk comic strips, I like Blondie. And I like The Family Circus. Those are good ones. But I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. So comic strips are a whole other topic. And comic non-superhero comics, I dabble. I don't have any like big collections or anything like that, or trade paperbacks or graphic novels or anything. I have a few. But I have one I want to talk about briefly, because this is my favorite comic of all time. Of any form. Of all of them. Comic, you know, whether it be movie, video game, anything related to comics. My favorite thing of comics of all time is a limited run, a limited series that Marvel did in the early 2000s called Trouble. Trouble is, I believe, a 6-issue miniseries that tells the story about Aunt May and Uncle Ben, how they met, basically, and how they ended up... Well, no, not Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I take that back. Peter Parker's mom and dad. Blood mom and dad. How they meet and get pregnant. And how Uncle Ben and Aunt May meet, I think. It's been a while since I've read it. So I've read so many fucking comics that it all bleeds together in my mind. But when I read it, it was my favorite thing I ever read. And I do have it. I have all 6 issues individually, and I have the trade paperback. So I have it in 2 versions, 2 forms. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I also really like fairy tale comics, like the Grimm's fairy tale comics. And yeah, I had some hip hop comics too. Those were cool. I like to go to Free Comic Book Day and explore new comics. I love it. I think it's time for me to wrap this up. And like I said, it's just now past 30 minutes. So I think it's time for me to wrap this up. Going beyond comics, I like comic book based movies, TV shows, some cartoons, toys, obviously, action figures, video games, novels based on, etc. Yeah, I love comics. They're pretty cool.